Welcome to our first Lunch and Lead seminar for fall 2021. The Lunch and Lead concept was developed at the onset of the COVID pandemic. Many of us were working remotely and some of us feeling rather isolated as we zoomed all day long to get our work done. We wanted to create a kind of a welcoming conversational space for inspiration so that we could bring leaders to you at your desktop or at your home office or wherever you were isolating. And they would be able to share their stories of inspiration, challenges, successes, their story of their journey, and perhaps some nuggets of wisdom that they had gained along the way. So our series Lunch and Lead proved so popular that we've decided, you know what, there must be a place for this. People can eat their lunch and get inspired, and it seems like a really good formula. So we are going to continue, and Darnell has agreed to be our first guest for the fall. I wanted to introduce my colleagues to you. A shameless commercial, of course, about the Leadership Institute at Purdue Northwest. Dr. Rachel Clapp-Smith is with us today. She's our academic director. Dr. Jane Thomas is our assistant academic director. And those ladies keep our programs research-based and grounded in evidence-based practices. On the other side of applied leadership, we have Makisha Neal, the assistant director at the Institute, and Jason Williams, managing director at Society of Innovators, who join me in bringing applied leadership practices to the mix. So we have a really good balanced approach to our leadership development. Jane, would you kindly give us a little bit more of an in-depth commercial for the Leadership Institute, since we have a captive audience?
I would love to. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. As Sheila mentioned, my name is Dr. Jane Thomas, and I'm a professor at Purdue Northwest. And myself and Dr. Rachel Smith are the academic directors for the Leadership Institute. And I wanted to highlight the fact that we have a full suite of program offerings and opportunities. And all of our programs are research-based. They are evidence-based. This is not just anecdotal suggestions for how to develop your leaders. This is all based on academic research. So first, I'd like to highlight a program that we have called Leadership Northwest Indiana, which is a leadership development program for managers and supervisors from all different companies and industries in the region. We have an 8-month program that's focused on building leadership skills and understanding how to be most effective in a leadership role. And then we also have customizable training programs for organizations. So if you think that your employees could benefit from some training, maybe on managing conflict or leading teams or how to handle change, we would be incredibly happy to work with you to create something just for your organization. So please reach out.
Thank you, Jane. That was delightful. Really appreciate it. You always sound so enthusiastic when you talk about leadership. It's great to hear.
I am enthusiastic.
I know you are. Great to love what you do. So today's format is conversational, with our guests spending the first 30 to 40 minutes sharing with us, and then followed by questions. So if, as he's speaking, you have some questions, you're welcome to put them in the chat, and then we will address those if there are questions or comments at the end of the session, so that we can kind of have a little bit of back and forth conversation. So it's a real honor and privilege to welcome Darnell Ross to our program today. Darnell brings an incredible story of resilience and his journey from his neighborhood on the south side of Chicago to the C-suite, corporate boardrooms of America. I would say he's a true American success story, and I'm delighted and really excited to hear a little bit more about his hard work, his determination, and his flexibility. And, the tips. What can we learn from you, Darnell? He's serving now as President and Chief Operating Officer at Leahy IFP in Chicago and serves on its board of directors. He has served in many roles in his industry, and I won't list all the roles because there are so many, but I will just highlight led regional sales, distribution account management, on operations. And because of the kind of breadth of experience, Darnell now has, in his current role, coaches, guides, and supports an entire management team so that he can make sure that his management team has meets the goals of the board of directors and have the capacity and bandwidth to manage their respective responsibilities. He holds a bachelor's of arts in economics from the University of Illinois. So Darnell is an entrepreneur, innovator, and a seasoned leader, all our favorite little topics. And so without further ado, Darnell, I'd love to welcome you for a rich conversation as you share some of your insights, lesson learned, and little tidbits for us. We're all ears. So thanks for joining us, and feel free.
No, thank you. Thank you guys for having me. I don't know how to follow up that intro. I appreciate that. A lot of great things you said. So thank you very much. I think first and foremost, I want to thank Sheila and Jason and the Purdue team for allowing me to come in and speak at today's Lunch and Lead. Secondly, I would like to thank my friend and high school classmate, Makisha Neal, for always thinking of me about times when we can come through and speak to some of the things I've experienced in my journey and the things that I've experienced to make me a better professional, better father, better husband, better man. So today, as Sheila mentioned, I want to spend some time talking about resiliency and mental flexibility. I know those two topics are very basic in nature, but at the same time, they're very complex in the true adoption of those two things. When you think about resiliency, the definition of resiliency is making sure that you have the ability to withstand or quickly recover from a difficult situation. Again, it seems to be very basic, but the question is how do you truly recover, and how do you truly handle those difficult situations when you have failures, and what does the recovery process look like? Are you thinking to yourself that you're going to allow these situations to help you or push you into a fixed mindset, or do you continue to have a growth mindset? I think those are two things you have to really understand. Do you start to develop habits where you say, I can't do this, or this is not going to work for me? Or do you have the mindset to say, I can do this when I do X, Y, Z? And then the second piece is, when you see challenges coming in front of you, do you avoid those challenges, or do you embrace the opportunity to take on those challenges to overcome them and master or conquer that obstacle? So those are the things that you really have to ask yourself when you think about resiliency. These are the things that I ask myself every day, every year, every time I have an obstacle or a problem. Let me give you guys a little background information on myself. Obviously, Sheila shared some things, but I do want to share my upbringing, where I come from. I was born and raised in the Chicago area. I was born in the Inglewood community. My parents grew up in the Inglewood community. In fact, my mother and father went to Inglewood High School. I went to grammar school in Inglewood, and I actually attended Lindblom Technical High School, where I met Makisha. I went to University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana, where I got my 4-year degree, my economics degree. My first 11 years of my life, I lived with my mom, and it was at 12, I went to live with my dad. And I think at that time, my mom thought I needed a little bit more structure from a male's perspective. And as I became a young man, thought that I needed the influence of my father on a more consistent basis. But through everything that I experienced, and obviously growing up in the Inglewood community, you can imagine that you have to have pretty thick skin. But through everything I experienced, the one consistent thing that was in my life was my parents always instilled in me that I can do anything that I wanted to do. I can be anything that I wanted to be, and I can work to accomplish any goal that was in front of me. Sounds pretty cliche, right? But the activities in my daily life was reinforcing that. It was the reinforcement through my schoolwork, reinforcement through sports, reinforcement through the other relationships that I've had with other influential people in my life. I was able to surround myself with great friends in high school, 3 of which really pushed me and influenced me to be a better man every day. One of which I think is on this call right now. He's probably not going to say anything, but he's on. But these young men, or these gentlemen, really pushed me to be a strong man and help shape who I am today. So I say all of that to say that all of the experiences that I had as a young man and as a child really allowed me to build self-efficacy. And self-efficacy is the major driver that led me to become a more resilient person. So when you think of self-efficacy is one's ability to believe that they can succeed and accomplish their goals. These beliefs determine how you think, how you approach things, how you behave, and then how you feel. Um, Someone that truly demonstrates that they have significant self-efficacy will tell you and believe that they can respond from traumatic situations. They have the ability to rebuild their lives after they have traumatic things that happen to them. And because of this, that furthermore lets you believe that, and you can understand that with self-efficacy, there's a level of resiliency that an individual will have. So efficacy can be built in a number of different ways. For me, it was really built through goal setting. So I would always set goals, and not only just set the goal, but envision myself accomplishing that goal. What are the steps that it's going to take for me to be successful in the goal, and what am I trying to accomplish in that process? One of the most profound things I actually heard it from Denzel Washington. He was giving a commencement speech at a university, and he made a statement. He said that dreams without goals are basically just dreams, and they ultimately fuel disappointment. And he also said that goals on the way to achievement can only be done with consistency and discipline. And I carry that with me every day, because I know that in order for me to be successful with my goals, I have to plan out what steps I want to take. And I also have to celebrate when I have those short wins, because I know that there's going to be obstacles in the way. So the efficacy process is how I continue to build my resilience and how I've structured my life. I've always had a very positive mindset. And I've always used these small wins to build efficacy, but most importantly, to build strength and resiliency so that I can navigate difficult situations. These elements have made me a better me. These elements have made me a better person and a better man. Everything that Darnell does begins with a plan. And my wife will hate when I say this, because everything that I talk about is as small as going to the grocery stores. What is our plan? What are we trying to accomplish? I always think about, what am I trying to do? Why am I trying to do it? And most importantly, that allows me to then create the how. How am I going to make this happen? And again, I use the example of going to the grocery store, but if I set out and say I want to make dinner, your subconscious automatically goes to, do I have everything I need to make that dinner? Do I need to go to the grocery store to pick up any groceries? You need to train your mind to think that way about everything. Everything you want to accomplish, your subconscious needs to kick in and say, what is my plan and how am I going to get there? Far too often we fall in love with the outcome of a lot of different situations. So what I mean by that is we fall in love with the goal or the win versus the process. So we focus on mastering the win, but we never focus on mastering the process. And what I mean is a win. Some people look at wins and say, I just want to win that situation. I want to win that game. But a win against a poor opponent, or a win marked by little effort or bad habits or poor execution, that's not really a win. That's a hollow victory, so to speak, right? So this can ultimately lead to complacency. So you winning and you feel that you're not giving your all, or you're not focused and you're not performing at the highest level, you become complacent and comfortable with that process. If your focus is to master the process, I can assure you that the results will follow. You will definitely be in a position to win. With strong efficacy, mental health and mental strength is unmeasurable. Your confidence is very high. Your trust to navigate a tough situation is very high. You can do that with very little concern. You don't allow anyone to project their fears on you. So for an example of that is I'm sure we all have had conversations with coworkers, with friends, with family even, and you will present something that you want to accomplish, or you will say, my goal is to do something. They may look at you and say, you can't do that. There's no way you can do that. That becomes foreign to you when you have self-efficacy. because your response to them is, you can't do that. I can, because I have a plan and I'm preparing to do so. The essence of mental flexibility begins with self-efficacy and resiliency. Mental flexibility is the ability to handle different situations in different ways, especially to respond to complex and problematic problems. In my career, I've had significant issues, significant concerns, significant obstacles, and I've had many failures. And one of my favorite quotes is from Winston Churchill, and it is that success is stumbling from failure to failure without losing any enthusiasm. So as you continue to fail and as you continue to get up and try to push forward, you have to continue to maintain that enthusiasm to continue to accomplish your goals. I've been extremely blessed to work with some really good people. I've been extremely blessed to have great friends that push me. I've been extremely blessed to have leaders that I work with, peers, and awesome mentors. My team at Leahy, or the team that I work with at Leahy, they're more than just coworkers to me. They're family for me. I look at them as my extended family, regardless of title. I don't feel that they work for me. I feel that I work for them. My goal in this organization is to make sure that I can provide them with all the skills and all the tools that they need to be successful in their respective areas. That is something that I come to work with every day, and I'm proud to be able to lead the organization and represent the team at Leahy. I've been provided the opportunity to work with in a diverse different roles over my career. Many doors have opened for me, and in these situations, these doors have opened. I've been able to step through and deliver upon what I felt I could do and what it was promised. There have been doors that have been cracked for me, and in some of these situations, I had to push through those doors and sometimes kick them down, right? Because I knew I had to deliver upon things that many people thought could not be done. But with both of those, I struggled, and I struggled. And I had major setbacks. I had major failures. But I share this with a lot of people, and I get a peculiar look, but my failures have been my greatest successes. Without those failures, I would not have been in a position to be able to build my self-efficacy. I would not be in a position to be able to build the character of the man that I am today. And most importantly, I wouldn't be able to reflect on the situation and really have an opportunity to learn from the lesson. What can I do differently? How would I approach this situation differently next time? Again, my experiences over over my career, and then also my family experiences and experiences with my friends, have helped shape me and mold me to be a person of high self-esteem, high efficacy, and most importantly, a fight that I would always push forward and move forward to accomplish my goals. A mentor of mine shared a video with me that I would like to share with you guys. I think really resonates with some of the things that I'm talking about. It's basically a video of Eric Brown, and he is a Olympic track and field runner. But he's speaking about a difficult time that he's faced, and he's given some feedback as to how he dealt with that. So I would love, if I can, cue up that video and share it with you.
One of my absolute favorite sporting events is the Olympic Games, and I had the benefit of representing our country back in 1980 as a member of the U.S. Olympic team 4x100 meter relay. And if you're not familiar with track and field, or you're not familiar with the 4x100 meter relay, I really encourage you, as the Olympics come up here in late July and August, to find it on the schedule. It is one of the most electric events of the Olympic Games. And what's interesting about this event is the fastest team, in terms of the fastest 4 participants on an A team, does not always win. In fact, quite often, that's not how it comes out, because the real challenge is being able to advance the baton around the track amongst these 4 participants. And the team that allows the baton to advance at the highest rate of speed is the team that's going to win. If you don't negotiate the exchanges between each of the 4 members, you will lose precious time, and that ends up costing teams either seconds, or they may even drop the baton very often, which means they're disqualified. Now, I'm telling you this because there's a moral to this story. As you look at the 4x100 meter relay, I'm on the track here at the University of Nevada, Reno. You can see that the color of the track is a little different in this zone that I'm in. It's darker blue than the rest of the track. This is in fact the first exchange zone on the track. So when the relay starts and the first participant enters this zone, the second participant who's going to accept the baton has to receive the baton in this dark blue area. If he receives it or she receives it before the blue area, disqualified. If they receive it outside on the other side of the blue area, they're disqualified. In order to make this work, a lot of practice is required. And usually, each team will have to mark the track with a piece of tape or a piece of chalk, so many steps from the beginning of the exchange zone, and that allows the incoming runner to hit my mark. So I'm the outgoing runner. If I see you cross this piece of tape, that's when I know I need to start running so that you don't run up on me or I don't run away from you. And I'm mentioning this because I think I learned a valuable lesson in my own life out of this event. One of the first times that I participated in it, we were running against the Russian national team, and we were running in a full stadium at Boston University. I remember this. And the Russian team was on the lane inside of my team. I was running the second leg, same exchange zone I'm standing in now, which means that the first leg of our team started about 100 meters away. Once the gun goes off and my teammate starts the race, it's less than 10 seconds before they will show up and I have to be ready to take the baton. On this particular day, as the starter put the teams in the starting blocks and I stood here in the exchange zone, everybody's focused on the start of the race, including the judge that is supposed to be monitoring this exchange zone. Well, as they're all focusing on the starting line, the Russian athlete who was on the lane inside of me walks over and takes my tape that I had used to mark my steps for when I should take off. Russian runner goes over and takes it off the track, throws it on the infield. Gun goes off, less than 10 seconds, my teammate's gonna be here. At that moment, I learned something about myself. I felt this rage, like I wanted to go over and beat the guy up. But I had to think about that for a second, because what I really wanted to do was win the race with my teammates. And getting angry, starting an altercation, wasn't going to help meet that objective. And so what I had to do was figure out how was I going to make the best out of this situation. And I managed to focus my eyes on the track, exactly where I had placed the tape. I was able to fix my attention and focus on that, so that when my teammate hit that part of the track, I took off. We had a smooth exchange. I ran one of the best relay legs of my life because I was so aggravated. I just wanted to run this guy off the track. We ended up actually breaking the world record that day for our age group in the 4x100 meter relay. And the coaches later would tell me that I had the fastest leg. And I was not the fastest member of that team. My message to you about all this is, someday, somewhere, sometime in your life, somebody's going to move your tape. Just when you think things are set, somebody will disrupt your life in a manner that you don't expect. And the question is, how are you going to deal with that? Are you going to get angry, start an altercation, get profane? Are you going to really think through what is the outcome that you want to accomplish from this frustration, and channel your energies in that manner? I was able to do that in this case, in the race. And I learned about myself that when there are times of adversity, I'm pretty good at not getting flustered with the adversity and all the hoopla and what's going on, but focusing on what it is that we really want to accomplish. It's my message for you today, and I hope you're able to watch the Olympic Games and especially check out the 4x100 meter relay.
I hope you guys enjoyed that video. I found that video to be very profound. I actually get teared up when I look at it from time to time, but the question that Eric asked in the end of the video is what are you going to do when someone moves your tape? I mean, that really resonates with me. And I think we all know that it's inevitable in life at some time or in some way your tape will be moved. And I think we're all dealing with that right now. If you look at what we're dealing with in COVID-19 and the pandemic, our tape was moved, and we're all responding to that. For me personally, the industry that Leahy works in, it was highly impacted by COVID. We do business in the food service industry, and when you look at the impacts on the food service industry with restaurants closing down, with some shutting down for a significant period of time, some not opening back up at all, manufacturers of beverages and goods for those restaurants saw some significant challenges. And we saw that in our business, and we also saw that some of our competitors went out of business. So, what we were able to show is the resiliency in our organization. So that's something that's very deeply rooted in the company from a cultural standpoint. When we look at bringing team members to join our organization, we have a strong understanding that individual can do the job that we expect them to do or that we want them to do. But we also want to make sure that we bring on team members that are culturally a good fit for the organization, that demonstrate the resiliency and the mental flexibility to join a company and be successful with an organization. Giving you guys a little bit of background information on my transition and how I maneuvered through the organization. I started in the organization as a sales guy. My background as a sales guy. I moved into management and managing a sales team. In most organizations, I never looked at managing the operational side of our business. My mental flexibility allowed me to move into an area that I knew very little about. But the company wanted me to manage the operational side of our business, whether it was supply chain and logistics. And I think, because I had the tenacity to push forward, I've been able to excel and really move into a role where I'm overseeing the organization in totality. So what I want to share with you guys, and if I leave you with one thing, the most important thing is I want to make sure you guys understand that in my life, my tape has always been moved and is moved constantly. In some cases, they were more catastrophic than others, but nonetheless, I had to adapt. In each of those situations, I was challenged to make a decision on how I wanted to respond. I didn't respond perfectly every time, but I didn't let the negativity of that event shape my thoughts and put me in a position where I was not prepared for the obstacles moving forward. I pushed forward and I dug deep and I fought through it. Please note that in your life, your tape will be moved and you have to make a decision at your point in time. What are you planning to do? What decision will you make to be able to push forward? You have to keep your focus. You have to remember your growth mindset, and you have to be open to adapt. And the most important thing I would tell anybody on this call is you have to be prepared to run your race. Your race is what you're running. You're not running someone else's race. You're running your race because that's going to give you the greatest opportunity to win. So with that being said, I want to stop and open it up for some questions. I appreciate you guys allowing me to chat with you and sharing some of my nuggets of information that allowed me to progress in my career. But I want to open it up for questions and see if there's anything I can answer from your perspective.
Thanks, Darnell. There's been some really great comments in our chat. Martha is a high school educator, and she said that she really loved the video. And she talks about switching prioritization from the process to the win. Could you talk to us just a little bit about that? You touched on that a few times about it's not, if we focus on the win, we will often be disappointed. But if we focus on the process and how to prioritize the steps to success, that's correct. a healthier, more resilient way to be. Can you expand on that just a bit?
Yeah, I have some really good examples of that, and my coworkers are going to be upset when I talk about it. But I've gotten into golf over the last 4 years, and I have a coworker that I work with that claims he's taught me how to play golf. But the reality of it is, as I began to play more with him, I started to focus more on what I needed to do to be a better golf player. I didn't care a whole lot about winning and beating him by 1 or 2 strokes. So what I mean by that is, as I continued to progress, I focused on the process of being a better golfer. So becoming a better golfer mean that I was shooting the 90s or the 91s, 92s. And in most cases, I would always be able to be comfortable with my performance, even if it means that he beat me by a stroke or 2. But in most cases, when I focused on the process, I would be able to be successful in competing against him. Another example I would give of that is my oldest daughter was a competitive figure skater. She skated for 14 years, and she's been in many competitions, some of which she's gone to the Olympic Training Center. But as she began to skate more, I would always tell her is your focus when you get on the ice is to skate your best performance that you can skate. Regardless of you coming first, second, and third, if you get on the ice and you give 100% and you master your process, you can be comfortable with the results. And majority of the people that I've met, they get very enamored with the win versus mastering the process. And even if they win by a slim margin, they're happy with that. I'll be more happy with just mastering the process, winning or losing.
That's great. Question from Maria. Is there such a thing as being too adaptable or flexible? Do you ever get tired of constantly having to shift, change, bend, adjust? Tell us a little bit about your experience there.
No, I think you have to know what you're good at and know your limitations, right? I think for me, I was always wanting to be a sponge and absorb as much information as possible. But I don't think you can be too adaptable. I think as long as you understand your strengths and what you can do well, you're going to continue to push towards that. But I think you have to have the flexibility to move into another area, even if you feel like that's not your area of expertise, because you should never limit yourself and not have the opportunity or the want to learn more.
So do you think that's a skill that you can teach yourself if you're not a very flexible person? You don't, that's not your comfort zone. That's not your sweet spot. Can you train your mind to adjust and to actually welcome that whole adaptability piece?
I think you can. And I think you have to, it's just moving from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, right? So a fixed mindset will say, no, I can't do it, or no, I would never be able to learn that. A growth mindset is, yeah, I can learn that when I accomplish these next 4 or 5 things. And fortunately, I've always had a growth mindset. I've never pushed towards something with the thought that I'm not going to be able to accomplish the goal.
Thank you. So Andreas earlier had a comment when we were talking about moving your tape. That video really was great. I have a feeling that we will be accessing that for some of our development sessions. So is it figuring out how to do your job without the tape, or coming up with a new system is what Andreas is trying to kind of zone in on? What's your guidance there?
For me, it's adapting to the situation, right? So, the tape was moved, but he had to figure out a solution. The option was not to run off the track and not participate in the race. So sometimes you have to deal with the cards that's dealt you and figure out how do you make the best out of that situation. And I think that's the message for me, and the message for our company and the team that I work for here at Leahy is again, COVID was something that no one was expecting. So, how do we respond and be able to make the best out of that situation? And I think some of the things that we did as a company was we took that time to be able to step back and reevaluate our business. How do we have a different go-to-market strategy with different segments of focus that allows us to mitigate any significant issues if there's a COVID or a second pandemic or a wave that we see. I think we all appreciate the opportunities in front of us now, and then I think the second thing is we're prepared for what the next pandemic or the next tough situation could be like. For me personally, the biggest, I lose sleep more now than I did when the pandemic first hit. Reason being is I have the mindset of I don't want to be in a situation where I'm trying to figure things out again. I like to be ready. I don't want to get ready, right? So my mindset now is how do I widen the gap between what we want to do today and what we were doing 12 months ago, so that we can have opportunities and flexibility and options to continue to grow our business.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that that's not your strength, because I think COVID tested all of us. There's people who are linear thinkers and really like everything lined up in the queue, and then there's people who are more of a they can take the waves coming at us, and I think that was the challenge for COVID. And so it sounds like you focused on innovation and using some the time to step back and look at your business from an innovative lens and say, what should we change now that we've got just a few minutes to catch our breath? What should we change, adjust, and maybe make better? How does that resonate now among your team? Are they pretty much ready to go?
Yeah, I think our team the team that we have at Leahy is more passionate about our business than they ever been. We've made some significant hires over the last 6 months, and we're continuing to grow our business. There is a contagious spirit within the organization where everybody is looking to own their space. Everybody wants to contribute. And I think that's all because of the culture that we built at the company. And it's not just for myself, it's really from our CEO all the way down to or every level within the organization. So the cool thing about Leahy is our CEO began to build a culture 10 years ago that we're starting to see unfold today. And it's a very proud thing to be a part of.
That's a terrific story. We have a gentleman who's saying, as someone who's trying to build more confidence, where do you recommend I start? And we're all on a journey. And so that's a really, I'm sure there's other people on the call, Jeremiah, that are thinking the same thing. Where do I start? How do I become more adaptable? How do I become more confident? How do I build that self-efficacy? And he's asking, should he be practicing goal setting, reading? Of course, I would suggest that he start with Leadership Northwest Indiana, because we really do a great job. But that being said, Darnell, any wisdom that you could share with Jeremiah and others who are really trying to, focus on their self-growth?
Well, I have some special wisdom I'll share with this young man. This is actually my younger brother. So I would say that, obviously goal setting is very important. Affirming your goals and making sure you're envisioning what it is that you're trying to accomplish. For me, I've always affirmed my goals. I would always say a goal, and I would always write, or not write, but think in my mind, What is it going to take for me to accomplish that goal? What are the steps for me to get there? Our organization as a whole, through our cultural blueprints and what we do as a company, we actually put together our objectives and we write affirmations for our objectives. And some of those are daily, some of them are weekly, but we also lay out milestones to let us know that we are on target to accomplishing those goals. So I would tell you, Jeremiah, is laying out your goals, affirming those goals, writing milestones to keep focused, and then always doubling back to see if you're in a position where you need to course correct or make changes to those objectives or goals.
Hey, Sheila, can I add something onto that?
Absolutely, please.
So Martha has in the chat has also referred to the work of Albert Bandura and the social learning theory, which is really, a really central theory to building of self-efficacy. And Darnell, I want to thank you for making those comments around how to build self-efficacy, because the theory really does support much of what you said, and that is that there are pretty much four main ways that people can build their confidence in specific tasks. And one is by watching other people do it successfully, right? So when you have a goal, it's great to see how somebody else achieves that goal. And it really helps us to see, okay, this is how it's done. Another is ourselves having those mastery experiences, right? So we're never going to get it perfect the first time, but practice really does make perfect. And there's great work on deliberate practice out there that helps identify like how to build that resource a little bit more. And then, and I'm actually wondering, Darnell, if you might be able to speak to this a little bit too. Social cues are also one way. So like the comments or the coaching or like the pep talks of leaders can do a lot to also build our efficacy and our abilities to do things. And I'm kind of struck with a lot of the comments that you've made already. I think it's really fantastic, the seeds of leadership that were instilled in you early on. And we see from time to time folks that don't get the same seeds of leadership early in their lives, and might struggle with this idea of growth mindset, right? Like they've really had experiences that have led them to build a fixed mindset. So I was wondering if you could speak to, as a leader, when you recognize someone who might be struggling with confidence or might be struggling with a fixed mindset, what are the things that you do to help that person kind of work through shifting to a growth mindset or work through building the efficacy that they might need in order to be successful and developing their own leadership if they're one of your followers?
Sure. We actually have a cultural coach that works with our company. And one of the things he encourages us to do as leaders is to always celebrate the small wins and making sure that you spend the time to say please and thank you and great job for everything that's happening within the company. It shouldn't be the only time you have a conversation with your team member is to put out a fire, right? So it's the small wins that you celebrate. And then on top of that, you want to build an opportunity where they feel comfortable, or your team members feel comfortable coming to you and sharing with you some of the challenges that they have. And most importantly, speaking with you about what they can do to overcome those. So for us, not only do we have our teams working with this culture leader, but we create an environment that allows us to have continuous dialogue about what we can all do to improve. Because regardless of my role within the company, I'm going through the same process to continue to better myself, no different than our team members are doing from their perspective as well.
Thank you. I love that. The idea of the transparency as well, that kind of makes you vulnerable to some extent, but it makes such a difference in the culture. Thanks.
It's funny you say that, vulnerability, because that's something that I've had to grow to, allowing myself to be vulnerable with team members and our team, whether it's the bosses my bosses or people that report to me. But once you are in that space and you let that guard down, the reward that you get with the dialogue between that other person is significant.
Vulnerability is an interesting thing, Darnell. As children, you came out of Englewood. Vulnerability would be a weakness. That would not be something that anyone would want to be. Vulnerability, though, as you grow, you realize to be vulnerable is a way to grow and to help guide other people. There's a good question here about your team. What has been your biggest task changing the mindset of the individuals on your team, in your company? You're working on yourself a lot. It sounds like as an individual, you're constantly doing self-work, but you're modeling some of that self-work. And, Rachel made a good point. You're by coaching and talking and mentoring, you're sharing the wisdom that you've gained and some of your own challenges and being vulnerable and letting people know, I wasn't born this way. I worked my way to become this person that I am. So how do you do that with your team?
Everybody's different, right? So, we have some team members that don't want to go there. They don't want to be vulnerable. They don't want to share the challenges they have, right? So it's for me, the best way I can do that is lead by example and show them how I am continuing to progress and being open to their time frame and what works for them. Because obviously being vulnerable with someone is not an easy thing to do, and you don't want to be too pushy. So I want to make sure that I let them communicate with me or anybody else within the company on their own timeline, and giving them the space to respond accordingly. But again, I think the biggest thing I can do from my desk is just be a leader and be an example of the process and continue to perfect that process.
Thanks. We have a really insightful question from Mario Rosa. He works with teen students as well as doing adult basic ed. And he's saying many students don't struggle with the starting, but they struggle with the committing to the journey. So any suggestions on how to help people realize that the journey is part of the fun?
Yeah, I think you have to continue to you have to show that consistency is where you get the results. So any example that you can give to show them that, again, your road from goal to achievement is consistency and discipline. And I use those words a lot in our company because I truly believe that in order for you to be successful in what you want to do, there's got to be a level of consistency every single day, every single week, every single month to accomplish that goal. And then the discipline portion of it is something that I've pushed and stressed not only in my own life, but anybody that's around me or my friends or even my kids, is you have to have the consistency and discipline to stay focused and do what you need to do to move forward.
That's great insight. A couple other questions. Makisha mentions the book Daring Greatly by Brene Brown. If you're looking for something that's a fairly easy read, but really centers a lot on how to work on self and how to be okay with being vulnerable, she has some really great pearls of wisdom. I don't know if Makisha, if you'd like to jump on and make some comments there. Let me see. Someone earlier talked about the metaphor of the mind as a sponge. Darnell, it sounds like you've really worked on making sure that your mind stays open to the learning from some of your challenges. I guess I want to challenge you to share, like, when you hit one of those bumps, one of those doors is like, you mentioned kicking a door open, which I love that just doors aren't always going to magically open. So when the door is like, there's, something holding it back or it won't open. Talk to us about how you change that to make sure it's helping you envision your success.
Yeah. So, I mean, you mentioned I grew up in Englewood, and I've seen and I have a lot of different experience with all types of people, right? So some good, some not so good, but at the same time, I've been able to, for whatever reason, understand a message that was presented to me, right? And take the good out of that message and try to apply that to my life. And I think that's something that my dad would always tell me, that you listen to understand, don't listen to respond, right? So for me, I always tried to understand what someone was telling me. And to answer your second part of that question is I've been blessed to have my parents was always strong pushers of, you can do whatever you want. So every time I come to a scenario where I think this is going to be tough, I can't do this, I just have that my father in the back of my mind saying that you're built for this. This is what we do. And I move forward.
Strong message about the power of early parenting. It cannot be those who have been in our programs know that I often tell stories about my father. Same thing, his 3 words were insistence, consistence, and persistence. Same to your message. He'd just say, if you follow those 3 rules, you're going to be successful. But I guess I wanted to thank you for the work that you did with our Learn and Earn kids in Chicago. I see Ebony Campbell's on the call, and she heads up the Chicago Housing Authority programs that Makisha and I were really blessed to run with. Some youth that have a lot of challenges, a lot of hurdles, but you were able to really power through and inspire them and empower them to follow their dream. You talked in the video we saw, and then your follow-up conversations about running your race. Can you just, as our closing comments, talk a little bit about how important it is about running your own race?
Well, I think a lot of time kids, and even adults, I think you think, or you see these figures in TV, or whether it's basketball player or the entertainer, and you believe these people are larger than life because they just have this unique mindset. And I think your mindset. So I like Michael Jordan. I've always been a big fan of Michael Jordan and how good of a basketball player he was. But his mindset, you can have that mindset as a school teacher. You can have that mindset as a lawyer. You can have the mindset as a custodian, right? It's your mindset to say, I'm going to be the best at what I do, right? Doesn't mean you have to be the Michael Jordan and play basketball. But for me, my race is, I am going to be the best Darnell Ross that I can be. And that's what I focus on. I don't try to be anyone else. I'm very comfortable in my own skin. But to answer your question is I focus solely on running my race and maximizing my skill set. And I do that through, through reviewing how I approach things, setting my goals, and moving forward.
Darnell, that is powerful. Someone in the chat said there was something else that we listen to understand and not to respond. If we can just take one nugget away, running your own race and listen to understand and not to respond, those are some powerful things that you've said. To respect everyone's time, we're getting to the end of our time together. So I want to thank you. We did record this, so we will edit the recording and post it on our website for those who want to share it with someone. There's you nailed it, knocked it out of the park.
Yes. I just want to jump in really quickly. I want to give Darnell a personal thank you. So Sheila has said it, Darnell has said it. Yes, Darnell and I went to high school together only 10 years ago. It's only been 10 years since we graduated. But Darnell and I used to be sparring partners, if you will. So we used to bully each other and tease each other, but in a good way, right? We teased each other, but we really liked it. And over the years, we have maintained a really good friendship throughout the years. And I'm just so proud of you, Darnell. And every opportunity that I get to put you in front of someone, whether it's the youth or other professionals, I'm going to do it because you are extremely inspirational. And so what I want to leave with the audience is just to take away 3 things. Think about 3 things that you got from this powerful presentation today, right? So for me, he said small wins, but I call them quick wins. Same thing, right? Those quick wins, those small wins really do help you to push and to get to that end goal, right? Self-efficacy is something else, because once you have that, you really can tackle all of the small stuff. And I think the one that really stands out the most for me, and we're gonna steal this, Darnell. I'm telling you this right now. We're gonna steal it. Somebody's gonna move your tape. How do you react when someone moves your tape? That's really like the answer to all the things in life that you face. Any obstacle, whether it's personal or professional, that is really the key to, how you respond in the face of adversity, right? It's amazing. Somebody's going to move your tape. That's my takeaway. I encourage all of you all to do the same thing. Once again, Darnell, we thank you. The recording will be available, and we'll make sure to email those to you all. And that's it.